What's up, everyone? All right, so I was sitting here in my office going over some of my live trading archives from the last couple days, working on adding them to the classes and things like that. And I thought, you know what? Let's take a moment to put together a game plan for Friday. And I want to focus on one particular setup that I feel like you guys need to be thinking about. I see it every day, this setup. And for me, it is the strongest way to get in a stock that's moving quickly. So I'm going to do a little refresher on this setup here today and give you a little bit of a watch list for Friday and walk you through how I'm going to approach coming to the end of the week. Obviously, having a day off on Thursday can be tricky. This is not the same as Thanksgiving, where you got the big holiday. It's a week of, huge travel week. And most people take the day off on Friday just because they're traveling, they're with family and stuff like that. This is middle of June. It's a day off on a Thursday, and then we're going to have Friday. So yes, there will certainly be some people who just take Friday off. So it will probably be a lighter volume day than last Friday, if I had to guess. But I don't think it's going to be dramatically different. I think it'll be slightly lighter volume, but I don't think it'll be dramatic. The real question will be whether or not we have any good setups tomorrow. If we have just one stock that's strong, that's all we need, really. One stock with a catalyst that could give us a 200% move, as we saw on Wednesday, just yesterday. So it's going to come down to whether or not we have any stocks with a good catalyst. If we don't have any news, then it's going to come down to, do we have any stocks on continuation from earlier in the week that could give us a first daily candle to make a new high? A technical setup, purely technical, no news behind it. But on a day where there's nothing with strong news, that could work. It would be essentially like the next best thing. So that's possible as well. All right, so let's go ahead and jump onto the charts. Now, Friday, we ended the day with a couple of stocks that were up quite a bit. NWGL, this one up 140%. Obviously, this is a big move. Most of it in the afternoon, kind of a surprise squeeze, only had 4 million shares of volume, compared to APVO, which had 113 million shares of volume. APVO is the stock that I did quite well on, but it's not something that I'm really going to look at for continuation going into Monday or Friday, because they put out news of an offering. So now we understand why we were seeing those big jackknives, right? Now it kind of makes sense. We kept seeing these big jackknives, and then lo and behold, the company announces an offering. So classic and a big drop. And you know what? Honestly, classic in some ways because of the red flag of these jackknife candles. But a little surprising that the company puts out great news at 8 a.m. and then 3 hours later is like, hey, we're going to dump a bunch of shares onto the market. I don't know. It's like give people a couple days before you put out that news. It just sort of, or just put out the news at the same time. We've got great news and we're selling shares. This just feels like they got all this volume that came in with the good news, and then they were selling, raising money, right? Boom, boom, big drops. All right, so that was APVO. Not going to be looking at that for continuation to Friday. MRIN, this one's a little cheaper. It's not exactly my cup of tea. The float's fine. The price is just a little too low. I just don't think we're going to get good action on it. AMZE, this was on the scanners, but it's below the 200 moving average. I don't think that's going to work. LZMH, funny price action from 20 up to 26 sideways. Blue sky above 32, Chinese. All right. So, you go back to that old friend RGC, which is still unbelievable. I mean, just in terms of percentages, let's just pull out the ruler here. So this back in March to current high, just yesterday, 78,000%. A 78,000% return. Unbelievable. And, this is I don't have to get into it, but, this is classic. So nonetheless, these can go higher, but you've got to manage it, what is a substantial amount of risk with these types of Chinese companies. So for right now, I'm just hands off on that. So when it comes to continuation, KWE is a possibility over 12. And that's kind of the only one I would look at in sort of a serious way right now. Now, if I pull up my calendar, where is it? Okay, so let's refresh this. So refresh calendar. So this is the calendar so far, and this is the month of June. All right, so month of June, over $1 million. That was the goal. So I set that goal on June 1st. I said my goal's $1 million. On June 1st or June 2nd, I was 27% of the way there. By the end of the week, I was 48% of the way there. End of the second week, I was like, 60% of the way there. And then boom, this week so far, now I've just crossed over $1 million on the month. So I have no idea what this month is going to ultimately total out at. If I have another $200,000 day on Monday or this Monday, since Mondays have been kind of ridiculous, who knows? I mean, 1.2, 1.5 million, that would be amazing. I don't know. We'll just have to see. If I can get to 1.5 million, that will put me up, I believe it's going to be over 4 million. Oh, and look at that. I just crossed over 18 million in gross profit. Oh, that's cool. So that just happened yesterday. 18 million in gross profit. But year to date, let's look at this year to date. So year to date is at 3.5. So, another $500,000 would put me up at 4 million on the year. I think the thing that's kind of wild is that, when we look at this year, it's been strong pretty much from the beginning, but you can see like January, February, March was a little slower, April, May, June, and we still have 6-7 days left. What's July going to look like? I mean, one can only pray that we start doing this, but let's get real. That's not going to happen. Whatever, June, maybe a little higher, July, maybe dips down a little bit. Who knows, maybe August dips down, September dips down, and then maybe we come back for sort of, Q4 with, a really nice rally there. I don't know. I mean, it's all a guess. And the fact is, if we keep seeing big moves like APVO and KWE, I'm just gonna continue to crush it. So here's the setup that I want you guys thinking about. All right, so let me pull my slides back up here. Where I just had them in front of me. Here it is. Okay, so if we get zoomed in on this, yesterday there was a picture perfect setup on APVO right here. This is called a micro pullback. So stock squeezes up, dips down for a moment, and then surges higher, right? You hear me talk about that setup all the time. I will put a link in the description for today's episode for my micro pullback strategy. It's a PDF resource you guys can download. It's totally free. Download it, print it out, study these charts, print the charts out, have them around your desk. So when you see this setup in real time and it's on a stock that meets all 5 pillars of stock selection, you know what to do. So when we go back to this setup right here on APVO, I'm just going to jump onto the whiteboard for a second. So what ends up happening here is you get this initial pop right here, and it initially squeezes, and then one of two things happen. Sometimes it pops up like this, and you have this little topping tail. The next candle opens about where this one closed, and sometimes dips down for a second, and then surges up. And this right here is actually a place that I will sometimes buy. This is a 1-minute chart. So now, well, what if this was a 10-second chart? So if this was a 10-second chart, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles that went up here. That's our first candle. And then the next candle goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Because we opened down here and we closed up here, but we had the top right up there. So this ends up having, if we kind of drew the shape around it, it looks like this with that topping tail, roughly. It would be actually closed a little lower, but you get the idea. And then the next candle right here has a bottoming tail. So that means it dips down a little bit more before it surged up. So wait a second. What is this pattern right here? Yes, in context, you have what is basically, a bottoming tail like this. So the 1 minute looks like it's just basically 2 candles next to each other. But when you zoom this in to like a 10-second chart, all of a sudden you see that this actually gave you a proper pullback. a 10-second pullback. It popped up, it dipped down, and then it surged higher. So if you have a stock that's really strong, that squeezes up 100%, as this one did in 3 minutes with news, right? So up 100% with news, price between 2 and 20, has relative volume of 5x or higher. Then, and the float is under 10 million shares, and certainly lower is even better. Then that's when these first dips get a lot of attention. In the case of APVO yesterday, it was our leading gainer. It instantly became the leading gainer in the entire market. So this was the 10-second chart where it popped up, it dipped down for a moment, and then surged higher. And of course, as you know, it ended up moving higher later as well, but just that one setup was really clean. So this is another example of that micro pullback where you get that pop, the little dip right there, little dip, and then it surges higher. So this is where I'm trading. And for what it's worth, you could trade micro pullbacks on anything. Yesterday with the FOMC meeting minutes, we had a big swing in the S&P. And so, S&P makes this, huge move, right? Pops up, drops down, pops up, drops down. Now, if you wanted to trade UVXY, and I'm not really advocating this, but just, for sort of the sake of argument, you are getting micro pullbacks in this as well. They're a little bit different because you're trading something that's, much more volatile in sort of its relationship to the overall market. But nonetheless, you could trade micro pullbacks on anything that has momentum. KWE, certainly, any of these stocks right here. So this is the setup that I'm trading every single day. Now, it's of course one of many. I trade really dozens of different patterns, but you get this pop up, a little dip, surges higher. This one went from $10 to $40 a share. The problem is, if you were waiting for a 5-minute setup, well, it just went up 400% without you. You missed the whole move. So in a volatile market, you have to try to find, what's the lowest risk way that I can jump in this stock that's moving quickly. So, just to give you kind of the workflow. So tomorrow I sit down, let's just say all of a sudden we see a stock hitting the scanner right here. It's moving up. Everything checks out based on the 5 pillars of stock selection. I get a little dip and then boom, I'm jumping in, I'm riding that momentum. And who knows, maybe tomorrow I'll walk away with $30, $40, $50,000. It might end up being a $100,000 day to finish the week. I don't know. If we have good opportunities, I will take risk. I will size up. I will be aggressive. If we don't, and I lose on my first couple trades, I'll just stay with small size until I get a cushion. And if I don't get a cushion and next thing you know, the day's over, then, it's a slow finish to the week. But the reason that I show up every single day is because you just never know when you're going to get a stock that comes out with news and puts in a huge move. And we have them, especially in this market, happening frequently enough that I want to try to be aggressive and capitalize on them. And I want to see you guys do well on them as well, right? So trading obvious stocks, focusing on the places where you expect to see a lot of buying, looking for those dips, and being really disciplined about not chasing, right? Make sure you get your entry and then get as much as you can out of it. And there's nothing wrong with selling a little early. If you're someone who takes profit early, I mean, yes, ultimately you want to try to hold longer, but right now, if you just want to pay yourself and, build that cushion, you do what's right for you. I might be a little more aggressive. I might be adding to some of these at a price that you think is higher. I've got the risk tolerance to do it. And look, I had a big loss earlier this week on, I can't even remember the stock now, but it was a big swing. I still finished the day green, but, I took some risk. So I think, however, if there was ever a market to take risk, this would be it because we're seeing so much volatility. So the game plan for tomorrow morning is I'm going to be streaming right around 7 a.m. I'll be watching the top gainer scanner. I'm going to be looking for momentum and I'm going to be looking for breaking news. And hopefully we get a couple good opportunities, a couple good trades to help finish up the week. And then we'll be back at it bright and early next week. All right, so that's it for me. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Make sure you download the Micro Pullback Strategy PDF. And reminder, as always, what am I going to tell you? Trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so please manage your risk and practice these new strategies you're learning in a simulator. And guess what? We provide a simulator for members of Warrior Trading. All right, so life is good. Make sure you guys, if you want to keep learning, check out a couple of these long, full-length training episodes here on YouTube. And I'll see you guys back at it bright and early tomorrow morning.